Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to From My Vanity and welcome to another Palette Palooza where I'm going to be sharing my reviews on the last couple palettes that I have tried and tested out. And today I have a total of 6 palettes. Not all of them are brand new, however, and not all of them are typical palettes, but all of them are palettes that I tried during the month of May and I had so much fun trying these products out. So yeah, 6 palettes total that I'm going to share my hopefully brief reviews on, and I will of course link to any videos that are already live that pertain and give more in-depth information on the palette. And per usual with my Palette Palooza videos, this is a countdown, so we're going to start with my least favorite palette of the month and work my way all the way up to the #1 palette that stood out and that I just had so much fun with and had such a good time with. And I do always like to throw out there that this is relative to the palettes that I tried, so just because a palette landed in the middle, at the bottom, at the first doesn't mean that this is out of all the palettes of my collection. These are only taking into consideration the 5 palettes that I tried, or 6 palettes, sorry, that I tried during the month of May. So with that intro out of the way, let's just jump right into the very first palette, which is going to be at the bottom of this little countdown. So in the 6th spot, the palette that landed there is the Butter London Teddy Girl palette. I was able to do an Instagram takeover on Butter London's Instagram page. I just said Instagram takeover. And they had sent me over a bunch of products before that, and this was one of them that they did send over, and for the video I used it, and then because I used it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a thorough review at the end of the month, so let me continue testing it. Per usual, I'll go ahead and scoot over so we can do it right now. I'm going to be showing you guys the pictures of the looks that I did, just so you guys can get an idea of the types of looks I created, the pigmentation, and the overall look of a look with this palette. But anyway, this is what the palette looks like, and I feel like you're gonna know right off the bat one reason why it landed at the bottom is because it's an extremely neutral palette. That definitely kind of docked a little, not docked it, but it just dropped it a little bit in my eyes when I'm thinking of the palettes that I loved the most this past month. That definitely kind of landed it towards the bottom. But another reason that I decided to put it as the #6 spot is because the shimmers aren't my favorite in here. They're not terrible, but they're just not that great. I feel like Butter London's strong suit when it comes to eyeshadows is definitely their mattes. I used to have their little, what was it called? Clutch palette, and you could change out, you could buy their singles and make your own little custom palette. I used to have that way back in the day. This is before I had Olivia, so it was a long time ago, and I used to have that and I love the mattes in it. And then trying this just this past month, I remembered why I enjoyed their mattes so much. They are just so buttery smooth, so very soft, so nicely pigmented, and they're a dream to blend out. I never had a single problem with any of these, and I thought they were all very nicely pigmented, just so easy to work with. So that was definitely the redeeming factor when it came to this palette. But I'd say they're more just like satiny tones. They're not terrible. Like these two are definitely, I feel like, the stronger aspects of the shimmers. They're really nice, but you can't really apply them with brushes. I felt like I got the best results when I applied them with my fingers, and I don't really like to have a palette where all of them look best with a finger. I really prefer to use brushes. Every now and then I will, if I have to, 1 or 2 shadows, I'll use my finger. I just don't like to. So that's just something I wanted to point out. But overall, they're very nice. They're very pretty. I was able to create nice looks with it. If you like this type of look and you don't mind that the shimmers kind of work best with your fingers, you have to apply a little bit more pressure and come off more as a shimmer than anything like metallic or foiled, I think you would like this. Definitely get it on sale because I feel like this is a more expensive product and I don't think I would recommend it at the full price, but on sale, if you don't mind more satiny type of tones for your lid shade and you don't mind working with your fingers, I think you would like the looks. Just, you know, keep in mind the color story is just very neutral. Okay, next up is the #5 spot for this countdown, and I decided to put the Juvia's Place Wahala palette as my #5 spot. And I feel like in my review I came off as very like, I just don't like this, and I have continued to play with it. It is what's on my eyes today, and this is definitely a very beautiful look, and I think I've come to appreciate it. But with that said, if I am looking around at all of my Juvia's Place palette, this definitely doesn't rank that high. And I was trying to really think about it this morning when I was ranking them. I was like, why am I putting it at #5? And I think there are just a couple things that stand out to me as being different that just isn't my preference when it comes to eyeshadow. #1 is glitters. 3 of these are pressed glitters. Not something I prefer to. The more I work with glitters, the more I'm just like, I much more prefer cream glitters, like the Stila Glitter and Glows. I much prefer that formula if I'm wanting to use and wear a glitter than pressed glitters. So those 3 shades I didn't really like. I'm also discovering I'm not a big fan of duochromes. People were correcting me in my swatch video when I swatched them all out and did my first impressions. I was calling them multi-chromes, and people were like, no, I think that's more of a duochrome, because this shade right here, and then, which is Power and Fighter, they're both duochromes in that when you swatch them and look at them one way, they're one color, but if you look at them in a different direction, they kind of shift a different color. I think this Fighter is green to gold, and then this Power is green to purple, I think. Yeah. So anyway, I'm discovering that I don't really like them because when I use them, I don't like that I can't predict how well it will go with what I'm wearing in my crease, if that makes sense. If you guys saw my 3 looks 1 palette, the first look I did, I was doing my look and I went and reached for Fighter, which when it was sitting on my desk, it looked purple. So I was like, oh, I'll put this on my lid. And I went to put it on and it was green. I was just like, I was dying laughing when I was editing that, but my face was so confused. And I find that the more I play with duochromes, I don't really like them because, like I said, it's just too unpredictable of what will work in my crease. I have to keep in mind everything else about it. And even multi-chromes, I mentioned that when I tried the JD Glow multi-chromes, I felt like whenever I used them, I really had to keep in mind what I was putting in my crease and try to think of something that would kind of go with everything, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if that's even a trivial thing. It's just a me thing. It's just a little pet peeve of mine that I'm not the craziest about. So anyway, those are 2 shades. The 3 glitters, that's 5 shades. And another thing is they have a couple really, I guess I would call them iridescent toppers. I think Envy is really the only one that's iridescent topper, but when we're talking about the very see-through, thin, not super pigmented shimmers, I feel like they have 1, 2, 3 in here. I used Envy and Unafraid on my lid today, and Envy is just, it just only provides a shimmer, which is beautiful. It's very pretty, but it's a little annoying because it only provides a shimmer and it's very see-through. So when I started to put it on the inside, I can see my lid through it. So if you're going to use this, you really need to make sure you either do a cut crease or you don't mind it to look messy, because when I do my crease and stuff like that, I'm not taking care of what gets onto my lid because I know I'm going to put a shimmer over it. But with this, because it is so see-through and it's such a topper shade, I do have to care how my lid looks before I put this down because you're going to see it all through this color, if that makes sense. So when I started to put that and saw that, I went on with Unafraid to see if I could just get some pigment. And this is definitely a lot better, but I feel like this shade, it's really hard to get it that intense with a brush. I don't know what, maybe I should have wet my brush. I'm not someone who likes to wet my brush, so maybe that has a lot to do with it, but it was a nice, more of a softer tone than I'm used to, and also stand up. It's just very, I don't know, just very soft, and I think that's just something, one, I didn't expect, I guess, coming from Juvia's Place palette, and then 2, I'm finding that I don't really like if it's going to be that soft and shimmery. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just not my favorite, I guess. So anyway, I really struggle with the color story in here, and I don't know why. Like, so many people were like, oh my goodness, this is the most cohesive palette Juvia's Place has ever put out, and I'm just like, and I called it chaotic in my video. And I still see it as chaotic. Something about this palette just doesn't click with me. A lot of people really like this. I've heard some people review it and say that they can totally see themselves putting this as their top favorites for the year 2020 at the end of the year. And I'm just over here going, what am I missing? I don't even know what it comes down to, but overall I think I've come to appreciate it more because I've done a couple more looks and it's like, okay, Kitty, that's not all bad. It's not that bad. But overall, I'm not blown away. It hasn't taken the spot of any of my favorites when it comes to Juvia's Place. It just comes out as like, right in the middle. And I really hope I didn't come off as completely negative in that video. And keep in mind, everyone has different preferences. But for me, this palette just, it was okay. Watch a bunch of reviews, see how people are using them, and then I think it just depends on your preference when it comes to working with eyeshadows and your preference when it comes to the color story you like to see in your palettes. So that's what I'm going to say on that. It landed at number 5. Moving on to the number 4 spot, I picked the I Heart Beauty Tasty Avocado palette. This palette turned out to be a lot more fun and a lot better quality than I was anticipating. I have had a little experience when it comes to I Heart, or did I say I Heart Beauty? I mean I Heart Revolution. I'm so sorry. I Heart Revolution. I had tried their Heartbreaker palette and it was fine. It didn't impress me. It didn't blow me away. It's not a palette that I feel like I need to have in my collection. It's not a palette that I'm honestly like, oh, I can't wait to go back and try another look with it type of palette. But this one, I totally am. Like, I can't remember how many looks I created this, but I would totally be okay reaching back for this and creating some more looks with it because it was very fun. I like the variety when it comes to the color story that they didn't just stick to green. They have the browns in there, they have the minty colors in there, they have some blues in there, and then they also have the greens, but they also have a range of greens. They have more lime green, more, grungy green, more of just a standard type of greens. There is a lot of really nice variety, and I feel like the looks you can get when it comes to this palette are very varied, very varied. But I just like that variety. You know me, when it comes to a palette, the more versatile it can be, even if it's keeping to a color story, like a very strict color story when it comes to green, I feel like I can still get the variety. Another thing I really appreciated is that it's very like in theme. I felt like that was really on trend and I like that about it. There were a couple of shades that I definitely think were kind of a misses. This one is very like flaky and I definitely had to use my finger and really press to get it to apply smoothly and evenly. That's not bad. This shade is another flaky one. But again, if you really press and work on smoothing it out, it isn't as bad. It's one that you have to use your finger, not my preference, but it's okay. But like I said, I really feel like it's only those two that are really chunky. Overall, I feel like there's nothing intensely metallic when it comes to these, but they are very beautiful shimmers. Like the smoothie shade, I think is really, really pretty. It's just really pretty, shimmery, very pigmented. There's no problems with the pigment when it comes to this palette. I feel like if there's one big downfall to this palette is that the matte variety is not that strong. For me personally, I like to see more mattes in a palette than shimmers. And when it comes to this palette, there's more shimmers than matte. If I counted right, there are 10 shimmers and only 8 mattes. So it's not a crazy number in the differences, but for me personally, I feel like I'd rather 2/3 be matte and only 1/3 be shimmer, but that's me personally. Definitely some pros and cons, but overall I feel like I had just a really positive experience with this palette, and for it to be a more inexpensive palette, I was very impressed with this. I was very pleased with this, and I would definitely say, ooh, it gets dirty. And I would definitely say if you're looking at this palette, I think the quality is nice. The pigmentation when it comes to the mattes aren't going to be crazy, but they're workable. Like this lime green, don't expect it to look as lime green on your lid, because when you use it with a brush to blend out, it's just not going to be as pigmented. But if I wanted to do a cut crease and I put a white base down and then laid this on the cut crease, I feel like it would turn out very lime green. So just a lot of, you know, trying to throw it all out there to make sure I give you guys as much information at this palette as I can. But overall, I feel like when you're thinking about the price tag when it comes to this palette, I was very impressed, and if we're talking about green palettes from I Heart Revolution, I would most definitely recommend you get the Tasty Avocado palette over the Heartbreaker palette. Again, don't expect like Menagerie Cosmetics quality, but if we're talking about drugstore makeup, colorful drugstore makeup, I think this is a good one. Okay, moving along to the number 3 spot. I decided to put the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette here. This palette is so much fun, and I was surprised I honestly reached back for it as much as I did. I wasn't really expecting to. I didn't record any of the looks, but when on weekends or days that I wasn't going to film and I needed to do my eye makeup, I kept reaching for this over and over again, and I think I did a total of 3 or 4 looks. I know one of them I didn't save because the day was just so crazy. I just kind of threw on some makeup and ran. But anyway, I had so much fun with this. I did a look, I think mostly I stuck to the green side, but one day I do know I went to this like L'Oreal shade, I think it was, and this Mochi shade, and did a look with just those 2 shades, and I really liked it. It was a very matte, simple, grungy type of look, and it's just a really nice palette. I do know that, I think it's Leo. I always forget one of these, but Leo, because I think I used that just one day. Yeah, it's a very dusty shade. That's probably the dud out of this palette when it comes to the shades, but Fire OG, I really had no problems with. I remember I was using it expecting it to like chalk up and get all dusty and whatnot because I thought it was Fire OG that I had problems with before. But no, it's beautiful. It blends out so nice, and if you like a grungy green look, this palette will give it to you. I know Melt has come out with a lot of new palettes since they launched this, but this palette is just still so good. And if you're ever on the fence, if you like your grungy tones and you're able to get a hold of this, wait for a sale. Everyone likes to save a little money, but I feel like this is a really good one, and I'm so glad to have it in my collection. For my number 2 spot, this is also an older palette, but it is the Colored Raine Safari Rain palette, which I want to say right here, this is coming back in a couple days. If you are at all interested in this, you need to set a reminder because they're bringing it back once. They say they're bringing it back in a limited quantities, and they're not bringing it back anymore. So if you want this, make sure you set an alarm. But anyway, I reached back for this because I had a lot of people saying, yes, I'd like to see you do like 3 looks, 1 palette, and you know, give me some ideas. I really want to get this, or I have it and I'd like some more looks. And I had, once again, so much fun with this palette. It's such a beautiful grungy palette, and I feel like any look that I got with this was 1, grungy, 2, effortless to get, and 3, so beautiful. Colored Raine's mattes are really, really good. They are just so smooth, and I feel like green can often be difficult and tricky to formulate, but they make it so easy and so smooth. And then their shimmers are just like wet looking and metallic looking, which is so beautiful. If you have hooded eyes and don't like when they transfer, you're not gonna like this formula because it definitely does transfer to some extent, but it's just so beautiful. I put up with it. I don't mind that much. And just, I mean, look at that. So wet looking, so beautiful. And I feel like the 3 looks that I created with this, they're very different from the looks that I got the previous time I tried it. And I want to say I used this palette when I initially reviewed it. I always do at least 3 times, but probably 4 or 5 times because I was having so much fun with it and I just love the looks that I was getting with it. I think I did use these like every weekend when I wasn't recording for some reason. I was using this because I had bought it after it was like launched, so I didn't want to feature it because it wasn't available anymore. Anyway, getting off on a rabbit trail there, bringing it back around. It's a gorgeous palette, and I like that while it's just 9 pans, you can get a lot of variety. And something I just noticed is that this actually only has 4 mattes and 5 shimmers, but I still love this palette. Look at me, I'm just over here contradicting myself, but this is the palette I make an exception for. And like I said, while it only has 9 pans, I feel like you can still get a lot of versatility because of the variety of matte shades and even the variety when it comes to the shimmer shades. There's just a lot about this palette that I feel like is very special, very unique, and one is definitely their formula. Colored Raine's formula is amazing, and they did a fantastic job when it comes to the color story of this palette. And yeah, I'm just really glad I own it. I also love the artwork on this. I feel like it's very pretty and different and just grungy and beautiful. It totally gives you an idea of what you're going to find color-wise in this palette with the red and the green and the gold and the bronze. I feel like you see all of that in here. So I love the packaging. I love when it all ties together like that. And overall, yeah, this is just a really solid palette that I highly recommend, and I really hope everyone who wants one is able to get it. Okay, so for my #1 spot for this month, it's actually not a technical palette. It is the Kristen Lee Cosmetics Mean Green collection. This collection is so very nice. I had so much fun with this. I created a 5 looks 1 collection and review on my channel that's already live, and on top of that I continued to use it a couple more times over the course of this month, using it with other matte shadows, and it was just a dream to work with. I like all of the shades in this palette with the exception of this one. I'm gonna just call it Entitlement is kind of the dud for me. I just don't like working with it. It's too chunky, it's too problematic and difficult to use on my creasy and textured eyes. I feel like it just emphasizes everything and just doesn't apply smoothly. But this one aside, everything else I love. Even the glitter ones, while yes, there's glitter and you can get some fallout throughout the day depending on how good your glitter glue is, I still love them because I cannot get over how reflective they are. And they definitely have glitter in them, but I don't want you to think like they're pressed glitters. And when I was doing my video and I uploaded it, I was like, I really hope no one thinks I'm calling them like pressed glitters, because they're not. They're just very glitter, very finely glitter filled, and they're just beautiful. They give so much reflectiveness. They're that type of shadow that like anytime I walk by a mirror, especially in dim light, why am I swatching it so funky? You just see so much reflectiveness and sparkle on your lid, and it's just so very pretty. I really love them, and I'm someone who tends, like when it comes to glittery shadows, I just don't like working with them because I don't like the fallout, but these are so beautiful. I'll put up with the fallout, and I forget which look it was. I think it was this one. It's super glittery, but it actually didn't have that much fallout, so it kind of varied depending on the shadow, the day, the type of glitter glue I had, how much fallout I got. But anyway, I make exception. These glitters are absolutely beautiful. And then these over here are, they're just so easy. They're so beautiful. I did look with this shade right here, and then I also did like a neon gel liner. I did something else with green, and this looked more, I'm like totally flashing you with the ring light, sorry. This looked very neonish on my eyelid. I thought it was very, very pretty. There's just so much about this that I think is absolutely beautiful. There's just a lot of variety too. Like none of these shadows I feel like, oh, you could have that or that. I really, really like the whole collection as a whole. If you're someone, like I said, if you're someone who has a lot of matte shadows, you want to try more greens, you want to get the rainbow, get the variety when it comes to greens, I feel like you could get this collection and totally get that and just have a lot to work with. And like I said, they're just so easy to work with. They're such fantastic quality. I really do like Kristen Lee's shimmer formula, and this definitely makes me want to continue trying from her brand. I'd like to try her mattes. I need to go on and see what kind of matte she has available. But yeah, this Mean Green collection kind of just flew to the top because when I was trying them out for the video, I was creating so many looks, and they're all green. I'm sure is a little bit of bias when it comes to there because I like greens, but the ease of using the shimmers, the gorgeousness of the shimmers, the intense shimmer and reflectiveness when it comes to the glitters and even the shimmers, but just the sparkle you get with the glitters, very beautiful. She did a fantastic job not only formulating the shadows itself and like each of the individual shadows and textures, but also the color story as a whole. I think she just did a really fantastic job, and yeah, I highly recommend the Kristen Lee Cosmetics Mean Green collection. So there you have it. Those are my reviews for the last 6 palettes that I tried, the palettes that I tried and tested out during the month of May. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found the reviews on each of these palettes helpful and informative. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, hit the thumbs up button on your way out as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. If you want to connect with me and continue to get new content from me on the days that I don't upload on YouTube, I am LadyKatie92 on Instagram, and I tend to do product review shots, makeup tutorials, and makeup close-ups. So if you want to get a close-up look at my makeup, I'll post them there. Not every look, but I try to post a couple up there just because I enjoy seeing makeup close-up shots. But with all that said, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.